Good evening. The word of the day is cloth. As you know, a lot of days I tell a story with the word of the day. And some days I have to think about something and try to come up with something. And today I thought of a story and I couldn't figure out how to make it apply. But I think I figured it out. So here we go. My father worked as a mechanic for many years. Not only was he a mechanic on farm equipment, he sold farm equipment and farm tractors. But one of the stories he used to tell was about diesel engines running away. You can look on YouTube and find videos of diesel engines running away, and they'll explain to you what's happening, how the fuel starts feeding into the engine and something breaks in the fuel system or something goes wrong, and it just keeps feeding fuel, and instead of governing the engine down and slowing it down, it just gets faster and faster and faster until you have catastrophic damage that stops the engine, meaning it tears itself up. My dad used to tell a story about a time they had a tractor in to work on, and he was new at the place then. And this tractor, the engine in it started running away. The tractor was bouncing up and down, and the engine was getting faster and faster, and he said the shop was filling with black smoke, and said everybody was panicking trying to figure out what to do, and said there was one old guy that had been working there that jumped up on the tractor, put it in the highest gear it had, engaged the clutch, and stomped both brakes. And he got it stopped just inches away from the shop wall. He was able to slow the engine down enough by doing that it got it stopped and keep from having a bigger catastrophe. Well, later on, my dad became the one who worked on some of those engines. And he knew that an engine has to have fuel and it has to have air to run. So he decided that the best way to stop those engines was not to try to stop it by getting on it and put it in gear and stomping the brakes. If there had been anything in the way that day, they'd have ran over a bunch of stuff before he got it stopped. But he decided to cut the air off. And those particular tractors that they had the trouble with had a big air intake tube that came out kind of in the shape of a funnel. And so he said he would get somebody to gather up all the rags they could find. And he said you didn't get just a little handful, you had like this many rags in your hand. And when they started the engine up, when he thought it might do that, he would say, okay, you stand right there ready with those rags. And as soon as it begins running away, he said, if I point at you, said, you just stuff those rags in there. He said, most folks would think, how are we going to stuff all these rags into that little tube? But he said, if it's really started running away, said it would take the rags right away from you. He said, all you had to do was just get them close and they'd go, be gone. But it would go into the breather of the engine and cut the air off and stop the engine. I imagine that would be pretty exciting and maybe pretty scary if it happened. But a runaway engine's nothing to mess with. Right now it seems like this pandemic's running away. But maybe if we'll just listen to them, and instead of getting a great big handful of cloth, we'll just get a little cloth mask and everybody wear their mask. We can cut the virus off and stop it before it does much more. And we can get this vaccine that they keep talking about, and we can all go back to a more normal way of life, where we don't have to stay at home and watch where we go and who we're with and social distance and all that stuff. Just get your cloth and wear it. And then we'll all have a great day.